May I proceed?
You may.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Back over there. I'm going to read to you Toby Madden's own words. These are the words that he spoke on Monday before you entered the courtroom, before opening statements. I'm responsible for what happened to her. I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. I love you. Please don't hate me. Can you put up State's Exhibit 181, please? This is what he's responsible for. Can you put up State's Exhibit 40? This is the it that he didn't mean to do. 55 times he didn't mean it. Let me take that down. If you recall from my opening statement on Monday morning, I told you how every trial is like a puzzle, and that you receive pieces of the puzzle throughout the week. And that's what's happened this week. And you receive those pieces of the puzzle from the exhibits that have been admitted and from the witnesses that have testified. And I want to talk about those pieces that you've received all week long. I want to help put them together for you. So we know, and I'm not going to go in the same order that they came in, but I'm going to try and put this in chronological order for you. So we know from Michaela Madden and Tanya Cook that the defendant and Rachelle were together for about 25 years, or north of 25 years. That they moved around from place to place. Michaela said they moved around from place to place, and they finally moved to 1270 Parish Avenue in the city of Hamilton, Butler County, Ohio, in the early of October 2022, and that they were renovating this home and fixing it up to live there. We also know from Michaela that they had a rocky and on-again, off-again relationship. And we know from Tanya that the defendant had been seen hitting Rachelle in the past, and that he said that he wanted to cut her head off and put her in her mom's lap. And he said it multiple times. I'm not sure that rocky is the right word for that relationship. We also know from Detective Horton that on October 10th of 2022, the defendant went to the Kroger on Route 4 in Grand Boulevard here in the city of Hamilton. And that was in the evening. And you saw the video and the still photos. He had on a gray shirt, short sleeve shirt, button-down shirt, a green vest, white shorts, and Nike Kevin Durant 8 shoes, or KD8s. And that was in the late evening around, I believe it was around 8 p.m. on October 10th. The next pieces that you got were from the City of Hamilton utility workers. You heard from the 4 of them, specifically the 3 that went into the house. We know that there was an appointment that they had at 8 a.m. on October 11th in the morning, that they showed up on time, that Rachelle let them in, and that she sat on the couch, had a hold of their large, big dog. I believe one of them said it looked like a pit bull. All the furniture was in its place. The china cabinet was upright. The entertainment center was upright. There weren't any chairs overturned. Nothing was overturned. And that they walked through the house and they saw a male sleeping in a chair in the adjacent room. They went into the basement. They did whatever it is they were doing, running their test on the gas line. And they determine that they can't turn on the gas because the furnace is broke or it hasn't been fixed yet. And they go back upstairs, and they're leaving at about 8:25. They see the male still in the chair. I think he acknowledges a "what's up" to one of them. They tell Rachelle that they can't hook up the gas because the furnace isn't working. And that one utility worker told you that she then looks to her right to the adjacent room and gives a stare or a look to the male in the chair. And that when they left there around 8:25 in the morning, she was alive, she was well, still had a hold of her dog, everything was fine in that house. And we know from Ann Mayers, who testified, that, as she did every day, as she said, she was on her porch at around 8:45 a.m. because she watches her sister's grandson with her sister walk to school at Crawford Woods Elementary, which is right down the street. After the grandson gets around the corner and heads up to the school and out of eyesight, her sister goes inside because she said her sister wasn't feeling well. So Ann sat out there, still drinking her coffee, looking at her phone. And she tells you that sometime between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., roughly, she doesn't remember exactly, it was 2 years ago, that she hears a scream. You all heard it. She did it for you right here in the courtroom. And she said it lasted 5 to 7 seconds, and then it came from her left. And she's at 1260 Parrish Avenue. They're at 1270 Parrish Avenue on her left. But as she said, she doesn't know. There's a lot of kids in the neighborhood. There's a lot of screaming that goes on, but she heard this one from that direction, but she didn't do anything about it. She didn't call the police. Said she went inside and she ate breakfast. And from that time that she was out on her porch, she said there was no one else out there at 1270. She didn't see anyone. The utility workers had already left. And then the next thing we know is that Officer Katie Johnson arrives there around noon or 12:10 in response to a 911 call. She gets there. The defendant's inside giving CPR to a clearly deceased body. There's multiple stab wounds in the body. Officer Johnson saw that. She said the body was very pale and the intestines were protruding from the torso. She pulls the defendant off of Rachelle and takes him outside. At this point, he's got on a lime green shirt, shorts, and Reebok shoes. Officer Johnson told you at that time there is no signs of forced entry in that house. So when you look at the timing from when Ms. Mayers told you that she heard that scream, and by the time Officer Johnson gets there, the defendant had roughly 2 hours to be alone in that house with Rachelle. And you heard from numerous detectives about the scene and their investigation and the pieces of the puzzle that they give you. When they get there, there's no forced entry. Front door jamb is fine. The back door, it does have a dent in the door, but it's got 2 deadbolts. You saw the picture of that. That door's locked. It's secure. Rachelle's lying dead in that front room with multiple stab wounds in her body. That front room is in disarray. Furniture's overturned. You saw the cabinet on the floor right next to her. There's blood everywhere, on the walls, on the floor. It smells like rubbing alcohol, and there's 2 empty bottles of rubbing alcohol in that room near her. And then in the basement, which is completely dark, if you remember, those detectives told you there's no electricity down there. They had to light that up themselves. They find the green vest, a bloody green vest. Turns out there's the bloody gray shirt down there, which, yes, they didn't get that until about 15 days later because of the Kroger video. But they don't find any white shorts or any Nike KD8s. There's a wooden board on the ground next to Rachelle's body with 2 distinct shoe prints on it. One of which is that Reebok shoes that he was wearing when the police got there. And the other one, this Detective Horton told you, as he found on the internet, is a shoe print of a Nike KD8. There's blood in the bathroom sink and on the bathroom floor. And keep in mind, he had roughly 2 hours from the time Ann heard that scream to when the police got there. They find a Swiss Army knife in Rachelle's bag. And it appears to be wet when Detective Horton finds it. Detective Trenum tells you when he examines it, it appears to be rinsed or washed. And it's got a deformed blade, a broken blade, that matches and is similar to the tears in the fabric in the green vest and the cuts in that Planet Fitness shirt that Rachelle was wearing. And you know from Detective Horton that the defendant told him, you got to find those 3 city guys. You got to find them. There's people out to get me, but there's not anybody that I know that wants to hurt Rachelle. And then Catherine Daly from BCI supplies you with these pieces. Rachelle's blood is on Toby Madden's green vest. Rachelle's blood is on Toby Madden's gray shirt. Rachelle's blood is in that bathroom sink. And Rachelle's DNA is down in the well of that Swiss Army knife. Down in a part where, as she said, you're not going to stick your finger down in there. It's not going to fit. And we know from Dr. Updegrove that Rachelle died from 55 stab wounds. They were on her arms. They were on her leg. They were on her torso. They were on her head, and one in the back. And he told you that there were defensive wounds on her hands and her arms, the bruising on her hands. He also told you there was a small knife that was used. And he told you that when you look at those pictures, the darker wounds are because the blood was still pumping. Her heart was still pumping. And those lighter wounds, they came as the life was slipping away out of her. You put these pieces together, and I submit to you that this is what you get. You got 3 City of Hamilton utility workers that leave that house and everything is fine. Something happens at this point. It's a piece we don't have because the only 2 in that house are the defendant and Rachelle. Maybe she says something to him about the furnace. We don't know. But he goes off. And ladies and gentlemen, there's 1 stab wound in the back. And I submit to you that that's the first one. He attacks her from behind. He stabs her in the back with a Swiss Army knife. She turns, and she tries to defend herself. And this is where the defensive wounds come in. And he keeps stabbing her over and over and over 55 times. And in this process, they're knocking over the furniture. She's trying to get away from him. She's trying to live. She's trying to survive. But she doesn't. And then he changes his clothes. He throws that vest and that gray shirt in a completely dark basement, hoping that no one will find it. He ditches those white shorts and those KD8 shoes. Don't know where. Can't find them. He had 2 hours to do it. Then he tries to clean up. He's putting that rubbing alcohol everywhere in that front room. Detective Huckey told you, distinct smell. Then he goes in the bathroom and tries to clean himself up. That blood's everywhere in the sink. Her blood that he's washing off of him, washing off of his own hands, washing off of his own arms. And then he tries to clean up that knife. He tries to get her blood off of that knife. And then after he does all of that, he has the audacity to start giving her CPR when the police arrive and try to blame it on 3 City of Hamilton utility workers. And the final piece of that puzzle is what the defendant gave you here on Monday morning that I've already told you. I'm responsible for what happened to her. He said it to his daughter, sitting in the back of the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have 4 counts here to consider when you go back to deliberate. And the judge is going to instruct you on the law and what some of the terms are in those counts and what they're defined as. And I'm going to give you a shorter version of that here now. Can you turn it? Thank you. So I'm going to take these in reverse order. So I'm going to start with count 4 because I think it's a more logical way to look at these. Oh gosh, how do I, I'm sorry, do it one second. I think I got it. Count 4, felonious assault. Knowingly cause or attempt to cause physical harm to Rachelle Brewsaugh by means of a deadly weapon, in this case a knife, and then it occurred on October 11th, 2022 in the city of Hamilton, Butler County, Ohio. The judge is going to instruct you that knowingly means a person acts knowingly regardless of their purpose when the person is aware that their conduct will probably cause a certain result or probably be of a certain nature. When you stab somebody 55 times, it's pretty clear that that conduct is probably going to have a certain result or be of a certain nature. I don't think there's any disputing that. And in this case, he used a knife. I submit to you, it's that Swiss Army knife. And clearly, as we've stated over and over, and you've heard, this happened on October 11th, 2022 at 1270 Parish, the city of Hamilton, Butler County, Ohio. Count 3, felonious assault again, serious physical harm. I just read to you before what knowingly means. It's the same argument. Cause serious physical harm to Rachelle Brewsaugh. Ladies and gentlemen, there is nothing more serious than death. That is the worst kind of serious physical harm. And again, October 11th, 2022. Count 2, murder. Caused the death of Rachelle Brewsaugh as a proximate result of committing the offense of felonious assault. We just went through those felonious assault counts. 55 stabs. She's killed. She's lying dead in that floor in the front room at 1270 Parish. Count 1, murder. Purposely caused the death of Rachelle Brewsaugh, again on October 11th of 2022. The judge is going to tell you that a person acts purposely when it's his specific intention to cause a certain result. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no other result that can be intended from stabbing someone 55 times. There's no mistaking that. Clearly it killed her. It hit her internal organs. It hit her liver. Pierced her heart. Pierced her lungs. That's a certain result. You know what you're doing. So you've sat here a week and listened to all of this. You've received all the pieces of that puzzle. You put them together. It's very clear. That puzzle is the defendant, Toby Madden. Find him guilty on all 4 counts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hahn.